Hello everyone, my name is Connor Matson from BrightBridge Web, and today I'm going to be giving you a video training on Heroku staging deployment. Heroku is an incredibly important part of BrightBridge Web, as I'm sure you're aware of. The majority of our Django projects are hosted either through staging or production on Heroku. It's where we can host our code and let clients view it from a URL, or when we're ready to go to production, we can just route the DNS and point it toward Heroku and still host everything from the ease of Heroku. But today we're going to be talking about the staging side of Heroku, which is much simpler. It's also less secure than the production side. So don't try to do these methods if you're trying to actually deploy a site to a live version where lots of people are going to be accessing it. What we're going to be doing today is mostly just between us and the client. It's a way for us to show progress to the client as we're working on the project, let them pull it up on their smartphone or on their computer or tablet and actually see what we're doing. Learning how to deploy to Heroku in a staging site format is going to greatly help you as you are a project manager, and it's going to make your life much easier. So without further ado, let's talk about Heroku and Django. Thanks to the technology of green screen, I can now be in the corner of your video, and you can watch me commentate alongside the code. So this is really fun. Okay, so what we're going to need to do first is you're going to need to get set up with a Heroku account. And in order to do this, go to Heroku.com, just say sign up, and then go ahead and fill out all the information. You'll be taken to a dashboard where in the upper right-hand corner, you can just say create app, and then go ahead and create an app and call it whatever you want that is in line with the project name. You can see right here that I am now in my app dashboard. I named my project Django Training 1. When I click on this open app button, I'm going to be taken to django-training1.herokuapp.com. And what this is doing is it's just assigning us a subdomain on Heroku that is kind of just ours to work with. You can see that we just have a default welcome to your app kind of page, but the idea behind this is that we can send this staging link to any clients who are looking to see the progress of the website. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into our kind of project folder right here. You can see that I'm just working in the Django Mail project, which was the same project as I was using in the last video. And we're just going to do a couple of things that are going to help us out here as we start to configure stuff with Heroku. What happens is that you need to have proper files and proper constant variable declarations on your site that will communicate the needs of the website with Heroku, so that Heroku knows exactly how to serve your website and handle requests over the web. So we're going to do three things in order to prepare for that. The first things that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to pip install a couple of packages. The first one is called Gunicorn, which will help us out in a minute as we're making our proc file. It's just Gunicorn, and so you can go ahead and pip install that. I already have it satisfied. We're also going to pip install Django underscore Heroku, which is the specific package that works with Django Heroku sites. And then finally, you're going to need to pip install white noise, Django white noise. And then once you have those three things installed, we are good to go with our pip installs. But what we need to do is, you might notice that when you run pip freeze, what we're doing is we have an output here of all of the packages, all the Python packages that we are using in our current environment, whether that is a virtual environment or your global environment on your computer. And so these packages are necessary to run your websites, right? You need Django to run your website. You need Mako to run a DMP website. So what we need to do is we need to tell Heroku what exactly we need in order for it to run our server. And so in order to do this, we use what's called a requirements.txt file. And if you don't have a requirements.txt file, go ahead and run the following command. We're going to output the contents of pip freeze into requirements.txt. When we do this, you're going to notice that we have a file created in our path that is requirements.txt, and it just has all of the piped information, all of the piped output from right here, and it just stuck it right into a file. And so now that you have this special requirements.txt will be used by Heroku to determine what the site needs. As you can see, as you will see later in this video, when we go ahead and push our content to Heroku, it will install all of these on the site for us, which is way cool. Which means Heroku will work with any third-party integration that has a valid Python package and package version number, as you can see here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to need to do is make what's called a proc file, and we're going to make this in the root of our directory by just saying new folder and then typing in proc file. It has no extension; it's just that word, capital P and then ROCFILE. And once we make this, we're going to type in a special command, which is we're going to call the Gunicorn package that we created. Whoops, this should be GUNI, like that. Gunicorn, and then we're going to invoke the name of the project. And in my case, this is Django Mail .wsgi -log file dash, and this is just a little flag that goes on the end that'll help out with outputting and logging on the server. But the main part is this one, is this section right here, and actually the web is important in there too. But what we're doing is we're telling Heroku Hosting what kind of server connections and options we need to have, and that's what's defined in our WSGI file. We're setting various environment things. We're telling it what where we're going to import our settings. So you can see right here that this is important because this is what's kind of telling the site where our settings are coming from, and settings.py is something that we're going to get to next. Really quickly though, let's make sure our proc file worked, because sometimes it won't. If you don't have the right version of white noise installed, then it might not be working. So make sure that you upgrade white noise if this doesn't work for you. We're going to do python manage.py run server, and you can see that I've loaded my settings and my site correctly. So we're going to go ahead and exit out of that. And then we're going to go to settings.py, where this kind of last part is going to be done. You'll remember that we pip installed two packages. One was Gunicorn, which we just used, and the other one is Django Heroku. At the very bottom of your settings.py, you can go ahead and import Django_Heroku. And then what we need to do is run Django_Heroku.settings. Settings, and then we're going to invoke, or we're going to call locals in here, which is just going to configure the local current settings of the site in accordance with Django Heroku settings. We're telling them that the settings for both our kind of staging app and our local app are going to be the same here, and that's why we put it in our settings.py. When we go ahead and add this, we are ready to actually start on configuring Heroku. And there's one other thing that I want to talk about really quickly, which is your database. So scroll up, and on line, in mine it's line 87, it'll probably be in the middle of your settings.py. You'll have a constant that refers to the database on your site, the existing database. The default is just an SQLite database, which is what I'm using because I have not connected this with Postgres. However, if you are making a Django project, it is most likely that you are running on a Postgres database. What you need to do in that case is go over to Heroku, click on Resources, click Find More Add-ons, and then you need to scroll down until you find Heroku Postgres. And you're going to want to add this as an add-on to your website. Otherwise, your Postgres environment and database will not work, and you won't be able to have database access. When you click on this, it's absolutely free for the first, I think, 10,000 lines of database, and so it works really well actually for this. For just a staging site. And so anyways, yeah, you're going to want to make sure you do that. But since I do not have a Postgres database, I will not be adding that to mine today. Okay, so now we're good to go in terms of actually deploying our website to a staging environment online. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to download the Heroku CLI. And if you don't have that already or don't know what it is, go online and type in Heroku CLI and then go download it for your operating system explicitly. The way to tell if you have it download is to do Heroku -- version and then in your console, and it will tell you right here what version you have. And if that pops up, then you've correctly installed it. Okay, Here are some important commands that you're going to want to know. These are important for deploying to Heroku, whether it's on a staging site or a production site. We're going to first need to log into Heroku. Now, when we do this, it's going to prompt us to push any key to open a browser. And so you won't be able to see it. It's on my other screen, but I can show you this part. It opened up this browser for me where I'm able to log into the Heroku CLI. I'm going to go ahead and do that and input my credentials here, and you're going to want to do the same. And so when you do this, you are giving Heroku access to you're giving your command line access to the Heroku site. So you can see now that I'm successfully logged in as connor.g.matson@gmail.com, which is my personal email. And then what we're going to do is, just like a typical Git environment, you're going to need that Heroku works with Git. You'll use Git commits and Git pushes and that kind of thing in a very similar way. And so what we need to do is we need to initialize this as a repository, and this should be familiar for you if you've been working with Git before. Then we're going to we need to set the remote, and the way we do that is a special. This is not how Git does it. Git would do git remote -a and the remote name and that stuff, or git remote add origin. But with Heroku, it's slightly different. We're going to call Heroku, which is the CLI that we installed, Heroku git :remote -a, and then this is the name of our Heroku app. And so you can see in my case that this is Django-training1. I'm going to type in Django-training1. And then we're going to hope that this works, and it does. It says we set the git remote to this particular Git repository, which is awesome. So now what we can do is we can run it just like any normal Git repository. I can run git add all, git commit -am, and I'll just say Heroku initial push for my commit name. And you can see that we've added everything to the site, and then I'm going to run git push Heroku master. And the reason that we do this, and we're going to wait for a second here, and I actually want to point out this output. It detects that we're running a Python app, which is important. And like I said right here, we're downloading everything that we need. All those packages that we defined in our requirements.txt are currently being installed. This basic one right here, we're first installing Python, then pip, then SQL. And then you'll see right here that we started installing our requirements with pip. And what it's doing right now is it's bringing in all of those packages that we explicitly defined. If we didn't do this, then it would be able to install Python and maybe SQLite, but once it tried to run the site, you would automatically get an error because Django is not a part of the project, and of course this is a Django application. So what it's doing is it's just compiling everything that we told it to in our proc file, in our Django settings.py, as well as our requirements.txt to configure for us an ideal Heroku site. And so once we are over here, we're going to go over to overview real quick, and you'll see that we just now deployed a version of this to Heroku. You'll see some other things that we did. We attached a database, which is just it's a Postgres database, it's looking like. So it did convert over to Postgres automatically, which is good. So what we can do now is, I believe that this is done running. Yep. And so if it worked correctly, you'll see that we've launched and we've successfully deployed to Heroku. And I just want you to remember that this is a staging site. There are some other things that we'll need to do if this is a production site. And we'll be talking about that in another video on how to specifically enable different security settings to work and run on a Heroku production and live site. Okay, there are just a couple commands that we want you to know how to invoke using Heroku. So the first one is called Heroku run. Using Heroku run, we can run any Python command that we'd run on our local environment. So I can run python manage.py. I was about to type run server. We've actually tested and you can do that, but there's no point and I don't recommend it. What you typically do is you'd migrate, because you have to note that your database online is different than your database locally. And so we're going to need to make migrations here. Or sorry, not make migrations. We're going to need to migrate. Hopefully we've already made the migrations before we push. Something else to note about Git and Heroku is that you're going to want to push to master always before you push to Heroku. There should be nothing on Heroku that is not a part of master. Heroku and master should be lined up always. That's just proper Git protocol. Okay. And so when we've run this, you can see that we've made all of our migrations here, and we've successfully just run a Python command. So that's the first one that you're going to want to know. The next is called Heroku Logs. Heroku Logs is really helpful, and it'll let you know if there are errors on your site and that kind of thing. So if I ever hit like a server error or a 404 error or whatever, any kind of error will be logged on this Heroku Logs thing. So if needed, I can go in and look at exactly what the error message was and get kind of the trace error as well, so that I can know how to better debug, because Heroku won't always give you all that information, and this is one way that we can get that information. So right now it looks like everything's running just fine. You can also see that in our logs we actually just ran the command python manage.pymigrate, so it's keeping track of what we've been doing server-wise on the site. Okay, the last one that you're going to want to know is Heroku Open, and this is just a super easy one. You can just type it in, and when you do, it'll just open up in a browser for you. So you can see that now we're on djangotraining1.herokuapp.com, and you can see that we have successfully deployed a Django site to Heroku. So congratulations. Hopefully you got this far. If not, feel free to ask one of the senior developers at BrightBridge Web if you have any questions regarding Heroku. But this is a super straightforward and easy process that just involves changing 3 things on your site. You just need to pip install some things, you need to add a proc file, and you need to edit your settings.py. And then after that, it's fairly simple. It's just using proper Git protocols and pushing to Heroku master. So with that being said, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Good luck on your projects, and make sure that you send this link right here to your clients, because they're going to want to see your progress, and they're going to be so excited to see something online. Thank you so much, and good luck on your coding.